Yeah! Get up!
What is up, everybody? It is fall. We're way officially into fall now. It is just become December. It is just become December. That is definitely not how you say that. But we are in December now. As you can see, the leaves are all either falling, or changing colors, or have changed colors. And I still got some green leaves on this tree. But we're in fall. I've got my cold weather gear on because it is a chilly low 40s morning. But we're out for a ride. Loving life. Loving that I'm here talking to all of you. Yeah, I've been motovlogging here for over a year, and I just gotta say, I'm having fun. I hope that you're having fun watching my videos. And if this is your first time, hey, click that like button on the video, and then also click on that subscribe button. Hit the bell if you want to know when my new videos are out for you to watch, and we'll have some fun together. And speaking of fun, we rode some bikes recently, and we specifically rode a couple of bikes that are in the running to be my next motorcycle. Now, if you haven't already, check out my my playlist of bike reviews and bike test rides that I've done, and you'll find that we went on the Indian demo truck rides not too long ago. But what I want to talk to you today about, now that I've had a little bit of time to mull it over, are the two bikes that I rode most recently, which are the BMW S1000R and the KTM 1290 Super Duke R. So let's start off with the BMW. And this is in no particular order, just in case any of you are trying to read into which bike that I'm going to lean towards. I'm going to try not to give it away. And if you've watched the reviews of those videos, maybe you have an inkling, but your guess is as good as mine at this point, because frankly, I haven't completely made up my mind. But let's talk about that BMW first. Let's talk about the 2017 S1000R. Now, this bike was so fun to ride, and let me tell you why I had so much fun riding this bike. First of all, huge shout out to Spirit Motorcycles, who allowed me to take this bike out and just have at it. They didn't even say bring it back in 20 minutes or you know, take it around the block. They were like, nah, man, just take it out there, hit the freeway, and come back when you're done. And that alone probably made this test ride the more fun test ride out of the two. And when I say more fun, again, don't read into that too much. Okay, so the BMW, let's talk specifics. What I liked about the BMW was that it was just so sporty. You know, it wasn't sport bike sporty where I was leaning way forward and had my knees tucked way up, but it was definitely the sportier riding position of the two bikes. The exhaust just sounds so good.
Flashback.
But sorry, that exhaust sounds nice. You know, the BMW has an inline 4, and you could just hear all of that in that exhaust, which was cool. What was cool to me is that the exhaust had this really nice sound, but when you're just stopped, it's really quiet. And you know, that's kind of how I like my exhaust to be, because you know, if I'm just sitting there, I don't need my exhaust to be loud. It's when I'm riding is when I want to hear that exhaust. You know, say what you will about loud pipe saving lives. I don't believe that having loud pipes gives you the permission, or that if you have loud pipes that you feel like you should be able to ride crazy because, hey, people can hear me. No, but I do also believe that in certain situations, having a louder exhaust is going to help you out. So anyway, I love the exhaust on the BMW. Another thing that I really loved, this thing's flapping around in the wind, it's kind of bugging me. Come on. Oh, there you go. Okay. So another thing that I really liked about the S1000R was the electronic quick shift. But to me, as much as I love this, and as much as I've loved electronic quick shift on the bikes that I've ridden, this isn't like a something that's going to be like, now, you know, that's going to make the difference between me liking one bike over another. As much as fun as it is, to me, quick shift is just one of those things that after a while, you know, it's just one of those things that your bike has. I personally, because I've always had, you know, pulling the clutch and shift is something that I relate to having fun while I ride. So having that available, sure, it's a fun thing and it's a nice thing, but to me, after a while, it's just going to be another thing. And that goes also for the cruise control, which I did not try out when I went on my test ride, and the hand grip warmers. You know, again, these are things that are cool. They're conveniences on a motorcycle, but from what I've read, also the grip warmers on the S1000R aren't fantastic. And contrasting that with what I've read about the KTM, the optional hand warmers that you can add afterwards, those I've heard can really make a big difference. So, you know, again, these are things that aren't going to make that much of a difference to me anyway, because, you know, 6 to 9 months out of the year, I'm not even going to be cold when I'm riding, so those aren't going to. Oh man, this was the wrong road to ride on. I didn't mention that I haven't been riding for a while, well, because it's been raining like crazy. So great for us, because as you can see, we have a lot of farmland here in my neck of the woods, and we need that rain. And yeah, and so do us humans, not just the plants. We need that water too. So I had an absolute blast on the BMW. You know, it's a really compact ride, and you're tucked a little bit with the knees, and you're leaning forward a little bit more than the KTM. And I was splitting lanes on the test ride, and I just felt really confident being able to do that. The bike was really well balanced. Even though it felt like I was sitting up higher on that bike, it didn't feel like, you know, like I was riding on top of a rocket. It just felt just right. And, you know, my only concern with that, having the knees tucked up a little bit higher and leaning forward a little bit, is, you know, riding for longer distances. And I don't do that all too often, but you know, knowing that it's not going to be all that fun if I end up riding on long distances, it is going to factor into my decision a little bit. So that's what I thought about the BMW. Let's hop on over to the 2015 1290 Super Duke R that we also rode. And when I say we, I'm including you, because if you've watched the video, you came along with me. How about that? So again, we got to ride this bike untethered. We got to ride this without a guide. They just said take it around the block. They gave me a little map, which just wasn't very good, and I didn't really follow directions very well because I was not familiar with the area at all. But we made it around the block a couple times, and although I did not get to take it out on the highway, I did get to feel the power of, you know, how the bike accelerated. And, you know, I just did that. I think I just did that unconsciously because I was talking about acceleration. And I gotta say, man, that KTM was so fun to ride.
Flashback.
Oh yeah, everything about that bike was so nice. It already had the tank protector on there, and the tank protector had this, like, it wasn't like sandpaper, but it had this texture to it that made it so when my knees were up against it, they felt really secure. And these are just little things about the KTM that I liked. The exhaust to me sounded awesome. The volume was really nice, and if it wasn't the one that I rode specifically, if I were to get a KTM Super Duke R, definitely consider swapping out the exhaust. Surprisingly to me, actually, because I'm not extremely well versed yet in sport bikes was that the slip-on exhaust for sport bikes costs pretty much the same as like a full exhaust system for a cruiser or Harley Davidson or an Indian or whatever it is that you're gonna do. I was surprised that they cost so much. If you know why those sport bike exhausts cost so much more than a slip-on exhaust for a Harley Davidson, leave it in the comments, because I am curious as to why that is. And you know, obviously I haven't done the research myself, so I'm gonna be lazy and let one of you tell me why. So the KTM, the Super Duke, I love the aesthetic on that bike. This is besides the fact of this is, you know, obviously not talking about the actual ride itself, but I love the way the bike looks. It's unique, it's mean. It has the V-twin in it, which to me is like, you know, if I'm going to graduate to a sport bike and still have remnants of my cruisers, is to have that V-twin would be cool, I think. But performance-wise, man, I rode that bike in standard mode, and that thing, I think it's street mode, excuse me. Anyway, I rode it in just normal mode. Just in case I'm wrong on the street mode. And that thing just got on it so quick, and I wanted to put it in sport mode, but I was just like riding around town, and to me, I didn't feel like I could really use sport mode. So I was like, you know, if I get this bike, then we can really explore and see what sport mode is like. But I can only imagine how much giddy up that thing would have in sport mode. So yeah, just in normal mode, that bike got on it, and oh my gosh, it was so fun to ride. The riding position was much more upright. Oh, you know, I won't say much more, but it was definitely more upright than the BMW was, and I did like that. So comfortable riding position. The seat height is slightly higher than the BMW, so I was tiptoeing quite a bit. If I was going to put an ergo seat in there, a comfort seat, it would make it just a little bit higher than that too. But actually, when you consider putting in an ergo seat or a comfort seat on both of those bikes, you still would end up about the same height as you would. And kind of like when I added this seat to the step-up seat to my Fat Bob, you know, before I broke it in, I definitely could feel how much higher I was. So I'm guessing similarly on a comfort seat on those sport bikes, that there'd be a break-in, and once you got it broken in, you know, you'd be sitting a little closer to the standard seat. So seat height wise, yes, the KTM, that's probably the big thing for me on the KTM, was that I was sitting up a little bit higher. I have had a subscriber or a viewer mention that if I were to get the KTM, if I would put in a lowering kit, and I was not aware that that was available for the KTM. But yes, that's probably something that I would actually consider, because you know, I could deal with having to tiptoe around when I stop and when I have to park for a while, but then there comes a point where it's like, okay, like this is getting annoying. Or, you know, if I'm on the side of a hill, or if I need to back up quickly, having to tiptoe that thing backwards would definitely get annoying. So that's probably the one big thing I would say in my experience from riding the KTM. If I had one large complaint for a shorter person, and again, if you're wondering, I'm 5'6", my inseam's about 30 inches, that I would make about the KTM. But we've ridden them both. I've given you my impressions after I've had time to mull it over. Leave it in the comments if you feel strongly about either of these bikes. Leave it in the comments why you feel strongly about either of these two bikes. And maybe if there's something that I didn't mention in my test rides, that if you've watched them both, that you think I should know, please, I'm asking for your feedback and your knowledge, because that's the one thing I love about social media, is being able to have that hive mindset and be able to share people's knowledge of things. So I would appreciate it if you did that. And at the same time, I'm asking you to do something for me. Why don't you hit that like button? And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button as well. That is all I have for you guys today, guys. If you're out there riding, be safe. And if you're not riding, get riding. This is that one guy, and I am out.